hi, everyone. I'm Nina Collins from Revel. We're here today for our weekly recording of our podcast, Raging Gracefully. So we record this live. We have a few attendees, sometimes many, sometimes fewer, in the audience. You guys are welcome to type in questions into the chat, but this gets released every Friday as our podcast, which you can find everywhere you find podcasts. So it's completely recorded. And this week, I'm very lucky and happy to be in a conversation with Ann Marie McQueen. Ann Marie is the founder of Hotflash Inc. She's a Canadian health and wellness journalist who's been living and working in the Middle East for quite a while. How many years, Ann Marie?
14
years, long time. She launched Hotflash to help women to provide balanced coverage and context about all things perimenopausal and menopausal, and to inspire and entertain the global perimenopause along the way. So kind of to bring us all in. And she's the one person I know, menopause stuff is very advanced or further along in England than it is here, menopause kind of culture and discussion. And Ann Marie is the one person I know who's kind of in the Middle East and a completely other part of the world, kind of bringing together the American and the European perspectives. And she started Hotflash in 2020, I believe. So, and yeah, before that, she was a news columnist, blogger, national trends writer, working for the Canadian national newspaper chain, Sun Media. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is she's just launching something called a Menopause Shift Summit, which I want to hear all about. So welcome. Really nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. So I think my first question for you is probably, I mean, as a blogger, since we both know that background, kind of starting these kind of menopause ventures, really just because of our own interests. How are you turning it into a business? How challenging is it? What are your goals? Also, and tell us how old you are.
Oh my gosh, just a second. Some music played. My getting ready music was playing. How embarrassing. And it was Jerry Rafferty.
I don't have getting ready music. Maybe that's the secret I'm missing.
It's really embarrassing and unprofessional. I'm so sorry. Okay. I'm 52. I just turned 52 in Turkey last week.
Oh.
I went on a mental hike and turned 52 on the last day and made it, but it was really cool. So I would encourage anyone to challenge themselves physically because.
How long did you hike for?
It was a 6-day trip. We hiked for 5 days, but some of those hikes, I was not in any shape for them. They were 8-9 hours uphill rocks. They sold it like a walk. You know, my friend asked me to go and she brought some girls together and there were 14 other people. They sold it like a walk and it was not a walk. It was like people who were hikers. Yeah. So I didn't have the right gear, but it was great. So I turned 52 and, yeah, it's interesting that you ask about the business stuff because Nina, I don't know about you, but I'm a journalist and I've had some pretty limiting beliefs in my life. And something I always said was, okay, I'm a journalist. I'm never going to make very much money, you know? And then I've been saying repeatedly, well, I'm not a business person. I'm not a business person. And I launched Hotflash. When the pandemic came, I had some freelancing contracts that sort of went kaput. And I thought, okay, it's now or never because I was really busy before, but I didn't have a vision for the monetizing of it. And I know that, you know, people I would tell didn't think I would be able to, but 2 years later, it's kind of, I can see it unfolding. So I think there's a certain beauty. I just put my head down and built it for 2 years. So I haven't made money. I've been working and doing it on the side, but now I can see because we're putting together the summit that I'll talk about. Yeah, there's brand partnerships, but I never wanted that to be, that's too much. You know, I always wanted it to have multiple streams so that I could expand it. And so, yeah, so, I mean, I have a podcast. I'm starting season 2. I've had a sponsor for that since the beginning, which is amazing.
That's amazing.
Become Clothing. They encouraged me to do it. Like you get little angels along the way too, you know, and
people really understand your vision and understand what you're trying to do. So
yeah.
tell us what your vision is. If you can say it in a sentence or two, what is your reason for being?
So my thing, I've boiled it down to is I've wanted to inspire, inform, inspire, and entertain what I call the perimenopause. And it's a group of really thinking women. You know, we're not going to just follow an easy narrative. We're not into magic bullets. We're into finding out like the best solutions for us right now, long-term. We're sorting through our stuff. We're figuring out that we're not victims, we're not we're not invisible, and we're excited about the next chapter of our life, but it's hard. So this isn't like a Pollyanna movement. But it's just, and I do a lot of research. I interview a lot of experts, but I also think there's so much pop culture that's happening, so much.
Yeah, you're a nice blend of, because when I think of kind of all of us in this space, and like I compare you to someone like Margaret Detweiler at Two Night and what, her perspective, right, which is much more pop culture. I always love your newsletter and feel like it's unusual for the amount of science in it. Like I am not a science writer. I'm not really much of a science person. So I feel like you bring kind of science and a little bit of pop culture, Gen X-y sensibility. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, well, I just thought I'm going to make this my beat. That's how I approached it. I didn't know. I mean, when you're doing something new and there's not really anyone doing what I'm doing. And so you kind of tend to second guess yourself and think this isn't right, especially as a journalist, because you have so many hats when you do your own platform, right? So you're always like, okay, I should be doing, I struggled for a while. I should be doing the science. It's silly to be doing a TikTok video. It's silly to be talking about TV. And then I'm like, no, I've done all these things in my career.
Yeah.
No, because you're a good example of someone who likes it all. If I can make the science relatable, if I can, get people thinking about what a movement this is by sort of just providing examples, then I think that's sort of what it's shaken out to. So yeah, I'm going to be doing my, sorry.
No. It's just, I agree with you. I mean, I do think I was just having this conversation with one of my colleagues who also has a creative side hustle, and is really talented. And I think you do, as a creator, as someone with an artistic bent or a creative bent, you do really need to listen to yourself and follow your own instinct. I think where you get into problems is where you try and make everyone happy. Of course, it's hard not to do that, like really hard, because you also have to make a living. And so it's not like any of this is easy. But you said a few things just in these few minutes that I find interesting. You talked about second guessing yourself. You talked about limiting beliefs, and you talked about not being a victim. And I want to hear more about those things, because those are like, you and I share, I think, a lot of sensibility, but those are three terms that I hardly ever use. And so I'm interested in it. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like
so I said, not being a victim, limiting beliefs, and what was the other thing I said?
Second guessing yourself. So there's a lot of like sense of like, do you feel as a woman in her 50s, you've had to overcome a lot of those things? Do you feel like that's an ongoing struggle?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Although something has shifted. I keep singing that line from the Wicked song, Defying Gravity. Like, something has changed. I've been doing it all week.
I want well, you have to sing it for us now, just a little bit.
Something has changed within me. Something is not the same. I don't know if I just, when I turned 52 or in the last couple of weeks, but maybe as I'm moving through the menopause transition, I'm still in perimenopause. But just something hormonally has happened. So I just feel myself shunting, like caring less, second guessing less, feeling more confident, feeling more sure and focused. But basically those three things would describe most of my previous life. And I don't know what I would have sounded like to myself, but I know that I always, like a lot of people, I had a feeling that perhaps there was something wrong with me, like compared to other people. I remember right before I moved to the Middle East, I was talking to my friend. I was 37 at the time. She's 10 years younger than me. And I was sort of explaining why I thought I wasn't doing well in dating. And it was sort of this, I don't know what I was saying, but I just remember it was really dark in the car. And she said, "How long have you been like this?" And it was just one of those really seminal moments. And so
where you were exposing a kind of vulnerability about how you feel about yourself, about your self-worth, self-judgment.
And then hearing from someone kindly, like, this isn't right. Like, this isn't the way you're supposed to feel, this isn't.
This doesn't correlate to the way she sees you also.
Of course. Right. And it never does, I don't think, when people feel that way. So really, then I moved to the Middle East and sort of, that experience kind of deconstructed my personality. Because, I left a newsroom where I would walk in the newsroom, I was a columnist, and people would, what does Ann Marie think? Like although I didn't feel that way in my personal life, in my career, I felt pretty certain. And I was a national writer. I had that going on. I moved over to launch this new newspaper, and it was, led by Brits mostly. And they just, we didn't rate at all. Like, I had to pitch stories, and like, it was a whole experience. It was like Fleet Street. It was like, warring. I thought it would be this big collaborative atmosphere, and it was not. So was so professional. Like I just sort of crumbled,
right. You had felt good professionally. And then
yeah,
I had a little bit of that too in my 30s. Like I'd had a lot of success in my 20s and then stopped working in my 30s and then you start questioning yourself even more. Like, what's my value and where's this going? And then you start getting old, and then that adds to the difficulty of it because you start to feel less valuable in society.
yeah.
But as you said, so you're still in perimenopause, so you're still getting your period.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I will say, I mean, I'm sure other women have told you this, Ann Marie, but I do think that you are, I want you to sing that song again. But I mean, I say this all the time, but I feel like a bit of a different person now post menopause. So you and I are the same age. I'm only a year older than you, but I'm 4 years since my last period. And it's like a world of difference. So I think you're right. I think that song you're singing, you feel a change.
Singing it all week since my birthday, but this has been going since 48. I've just been, like getting more and more confident. And in my personal life, when that girl said that to me and I moved over and I sort of crumbled, moving abroad was a wonderful thing for me because I think for anyone really, it's wonderful to live in another country, but to create success for yourself personally and professionally in two places is a real, it's a real
achievement.
Accomplishment. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really envy you. I would like to live someplace else. I've basically always lived in New York and feel kind of, I know. Well, I'm really like hatching an idea to move to LA, but I am starting to wonder if like I have an apartment that I can sell in a couple of years that will give me some money to do something. And so I was thinking I'd buy something in LA, but then I start to wonder, particularly with the American election coming up, maybe I should really seriously think about buying something in Europe. So I don't know. And luckily I can't make the decision until like the end of 23. So I've got some time to really think about it.
Okay, you've got some time to think about it. I'm going to send you something on Portugal. It's funny. I just read a book while I was in Turkey that I've been meaning to read for a long time by a woman named Ash Amberge, and it's called. It was like a digital book that I bought, but you don't need a job. You need guts, and it's basically her blueprint to become a creator. But I get her newsletter and I absolutely love it. And
tell me her name. She sounds like someone just
Amberge, Ambirge. And she gives a lot of advice for people who want to be creators, but she just sent out an email because she goes and works in places for a couple of months. Right. And so she's in Portugal now, in Lisbon, and she just made it sound like heaven on earth. You can buy property there. You'll get, visa. Like you'll get your sort of.
I know it's the thing. I know that get health insurance. I know it's called the golden visa in Portugal. I know. Yeah. I feel like my internet connection is suddenly unstable. Can you hear me? There we go. Yeah, I feel like everyone in America is talking about moving to Portugal. So I'm a little afraid by the time I'm ready, it will no longer be the popular place to go, but we'll see. But yeah, that's on my list because I am worried about living through another election here. Like I just don't know emotionally if I can take it. But part of the problem because I have 4 kids, I feel like, do I want to was it abandoning them if I move to Portugal? I don't know. I'm like a mess. I can't figure out what I want to do. I mean, not a mess, but
that's huge. It's a huge decision. But it is, but it isn't, because you can go back. You can go for 2 months.
No, and I love that you've lived abroad. So tell us what the Menopause Shift Summit is.
Okay, so I met this woman, Andrea Donsky, through social media. She's a holistic nutritionist, and she's also a big TikTok star now. She has like 200,000 followers on TikTok. Really cool person. And we started talking and, had some Zooms and kind of like you and me. And then she said she wanted to do a summit. And I had always thought of doing a summit. And of course, I don't always think everything through. So I said, sure. And next thing we know, we're doing this.
So wait, tell me your name again so we can look her up.
Donna? Andrea Donsky.
Andrea
Donsky.
Okay, I'm putting her in the chat, and she's on TikTok, among other.
She's on TikTok, and her and her business partner are launching a line of menopause supplements, and she's like obsessive about ingredients and really forward thinking. And we have really the same sensibility. Like we don't believe in magic bullets. We believe in menopause hormone therapy, but only if it's right for you and only if it feels right. And that the science on that is still developing. And there's so many other things you can do and holistic and everything. And she's like really cutting edge. And I like to know all the new things. So we interviewed like 40 plus experts, and it's free over 3 days, June 21st to 23rd. I'll put the link in the chat.
Yes.
how to sign up. And so it's free and you can watch it. And the sort of model of these things is if you don't have time, you can buy one of the packages and you can get the videos. And then we have extras in there too, like cool tests you can do, extras from the speakers. And I'm writing like a menopause must list, just kind of some of my research that you can download. So Andrew and I have done an interview about sleep that you can get. And so many, I mean, I've just interviewed so many cool people and learned so many things. Like,
how wonderful. Okay. So June 21st to 23rd, we'll make sure this interview obviously will go out this week and it's online. And do you just Google Hotflash Inc? How do you find it?
I'm going to put the link to sign up in the chat, or go to Hotflash Inc. and it's in the link in my bio. And that's in any Hotflash Inc. like .com or on the any of my socials. Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to multitask here. There we go.
That's okay. Well, I'm going to ask you another question while you're multitasking, which is what do you do for menopause symptoms? Are you on HRT? What do you use? By the way, your teal colored nail polish is super awesome.
Don't look too close. I
know. I'm really this color. I've been doing this like pale gold color lately.
Ooh, I like that. That really suits you. What do I do? Okay. So I was one of those people that had just perimenopause for my whole 40s and didn't know what was going on, and was living sort of this crazy life. And so was just not sleeping and was having like headaches and just all these random things. And so at 48, I realized that I was in perimenopause because I skipped a period, which is like, you sort of can't ignore that. Right. And I guess I just didn't even know or think about it. And that's when I decided to launch Hotflash Inc. Since then, I'm very, very curious about menopause hormone therapy. I'm curious about it helping, I would say mostly for me, brain fog and the cognitive stuff. Just, I mean, I just was writing someone about the summit and I wrote November 21st to 23rd and said, oh, I have a radio interview on November 28th. And it was the organizer and or the woman we're working with. And she's like, where did that come from? My newsletter, I've called it it's numbered. It's numbered. And I made it a number when I said I was on vacation in Turkey. And then I made that number again. Like I look like an insane person. So I'm curious about it for brain fog. I'm managing hot flashes. I took something called Pycnogenol, and I'll write it in the chat too, because I think this is the Pycnogenol.
So your worst symptom is brain fog. You're not having terrible night sweats or hot flashes. They're manageable.
No, I was having hot flashes, not terrible. I do sometimes have night sweats. When that happens to the point, like I just have a very few. I take something called Pycnogenol, which I just put in the chat. I think it's one of the best supplements, and I have absolutely no idea why it's never on a list.
I've never even heard of it.
It's never on a list.
For anyone who's listening, it's spelled Pycnogenol, Pycnogenol. Never heard of it. Look it up.
It's made from the bark of a tree that grows in the Mediterranean. It's made in France. It's standardized, it's regulated, it's an antioxidant. I've heard cardiologists recommend it for men and women. So it's safe. It's already good for you in other ways. And it works like a charm. Like hot flashes are gone and night sweats. And so I'm not taking it right now, but if they come back, because the symptoms kind of wax and wane.
Yeah, they wax and wane. And sometimes the problem with these supplements is you have to take them and then like you don't know if they're working because your symptoms are waxing and waning. So it gets confusing. Right. Is this the kind of thing that works like instantly? Like you take it and then
it's like a couple of days. Like it's and the North American Menopause Society just came out last week on the 20th anniversary of the Women's Health Initiative study. And they said that women are still asking questions. That was a study that sort of scared women and it had poor methodology. It was all the women who were older. And, 20 years on from that, we know the closer you go on hormone therapy to the earlier you go on, is better, that window of opportunity. But they were saying, first of all, they seemed kind of annoyed that women are still asking questions. And I think women should always ask questions, right? I that's one thing about this, when a doctor sort of acts like, 20 years on, people are still asking questions. Well, I will be asking questions for a long time because we should.
Well, and also they told us that hormones were going to kill us and give us breast cancer and heart attacks. And that's a lot to contemplate. So we need to ask questions, and they still, as you say, they're still not sure. They're now saying it's safer. It seems like it's fine. I mean,
Yeah. I'll talk about that part in a minute, but they came in and said, the safest and most effective treatment for hot flashes and night sweats is menopause hormone therapy. Great. But when I see it, I'm like, yes, and Picnogino. like I just feel like this supplement, and I not associated with it in any way. It's just a lifesaver for me. And someone said it to me once in a Facebook group, and I just gave it a try. So really good. And the other thing about hormone therapy, about the risks, because I think no one can really get to the bottom of it, and we're still getting to the bottom of it. But there was a study that came out in the Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology a couple of weeks ago, and it's a few of the experts I follow provided the context, and I read the study myself. It seems more than ever that the type of hormone therapy you're on is important. The risks of breast cancer and other things, and there are risks, seem to be more associated with synthetic estrogen and synthetic progestin. A lot of people don't really think about the difference between progestin and progesterone. And progesterone is more similar to what our body makes. Progestin is a synthetic. So if you can take, bioidentical hormones sort of got a bad reputation because they were made in compounding pharmacies. They're not regulated by the FDA. But now, you can get a patch and that is a bioidentical. They call it body identical. So I think if you're really worried about risk, like talking to your doctor, finding that study, taking it in, saying, can I get progesterone, not progestin? Seeming more than ever.
Yeah. I take 100 milligrams of progesterone every day, and I'm on every night. I'm on patch, the estradiol.
You're on. That's what you're on. And that's what you're on.
Yeah, that's what I'm on. And I did it really for hot flashes. So for me, I haven't had much brain fog, although I think brain fog is super funny when it happens, because you must know this better because you're good with the science, that it's nouns. Like it's when it's not like people say, do I have Alzheimer's? But if you're having the brain fog, particularly with nouns, it's menopause, it's brain fog. It's really funny. So
well, it isn't when you're talking to young people. And I like at lunch last week, I just flew in from Turkey. I felt like I was making no sense. And I said, am I having a stroke? Like, I don't know what's going on. I can't get anything out. But one of the experts I spoke to for the summit, Dr. Sarah McKay, she's a neuroscientist in Australia. I asked her this. I said, so many people are scared when it happens that you miss a word or you're confused about something. Everyone thinks this is early onset dementia. And she said, the difference is, okay, if you can never find your keys, that's brain fog. If you're always losing your keys, if you have your keys in your hand and you don't know what they're for, then that's more concerning. You have a
four. Yeah, that's a little scary. That would suck. Ugh, yeah. To look forward to. That's a whole other science thing we could talk about, right? Isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I think a third of 3 out of 4 all Alzheimer's patients are women. What's that statistic? Women. It's huge. Yeah, it's really scary.
But there's some really cool science coming out about that. Like one of the people that we almost had him for the summit, but he's so busy, Dr. Dale Brizendine. He is the Alzheimer's guy. He's written a book about it. He's got a whole protocol for like slowing. I don't think dementia is not, what we think it is. I don't think there's an automatic slow decline. There are so many things you can do. And on his protocol, yep.
No, go ahead. I'm just wondering if you mean like diet, exercise, crossword
puzzles, but menopause hormone therapy, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, keto diets, MCT oil. There are loads of things that can happen. Yeah.
I mean, it is one of the reasons I decided to go on HRT, even though my mom died of breast cancer, premenopausal breast cancer. I felt like I kind of believed the bit of evidence that seems to be coming about heart health and brain health and the benefits of taking HRT. And I thought, I'm going to do this, but who knows? Have you read this book? I just got up to get this book, The Upgrade. I've not read it yet.
I've ordered it. I've heard amazing things about it. And I interviewed her when she wrote The Female Brain.
Yeah.
That was quite a long time ago. And I've always been a fan of hers. And I just love that she didn't even want menopause on the front cover. I love the message. It's so contrary to a lot of what we're hearing, because we're hearing, particularly in the UK, it's a very negative narrative. It's a very doom and gloom. It's very like straight line from brain fog to dementia to hear people talk. And
all right, well, guys in the audience, I'm just going to put this book in the chat that we are just discussing. I've not read it yet. It's called The Upgrade by Luanne Brizendine, and she wrote The Female Brain. And
yeah.
it's a book about how the female brain gets stronger and better in midlife and beyond. And it just came out in the last month or so and is getting a fair amount of attention. But it's true. The narrative coming out of the UK, right, is very, I mean, it sounds like it's, and you would know better than I would, that it's very focused on how, we're challenged in the workplace because of menopause, and we're falling apart essentially, and we need help. We need more protection or more help around those issues. It's tricky. Where do you stand on that? Workplace stuff.
Oh, the workplace.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry.
Well, just kind of the workplace. I mean, I guess I go back and forth. Like in America, I don't know that I want menopause workplace policies. Like it feels a little bit infantilizing.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, maybe we do need it. Maybe we do need people to acknowledge, men to acknowledge, HR to acknowledge that we have brain fog and we have hot flashes, and sometimes we need a break or we need to cool off. Or I'm not sure. I worry that it makes us seem like we're experiencing an illness, and it's not an illness, right? It's a normal stage of life.
Yeah. And I think we've all worked with that one person who will milk this till the cow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've all worked with, whatever her name was, their name was. We've all worked with the person who's going to take that and run with it. And so there's that aspect. If you've ever been a manager, you're like, oi, like I just, I can't even imagine. And that's okay to say, but gosh, don't say that in the UK or write a column about it, because you'll just get ripped, because there's sort of one way to think about this in the UK. But the press over there is very interesting. And I'd say before I went to work in the Middle East with a bunch of British journalists, I highly respected their media coverage. And then when I went to actually work with them, I have a whole different, there's some very good journalists in the UK, but there's also just a lot of really irresponsible stuff, as we know there is everywhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of sensationalistic stuff. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. But one example is there was this quote, there was this figure being thrown around that 1 million women were going to be leaving the workforce due to menopause.
Yeah.
This was a headline in The Guardian just a couple of months ago. It's still in The Guardian. And Rachel Lancaster, who runs a magnificent midlife, like traced this back because she just didn't seem right. And no, it's like, it's not. It's like a fraction when you get right down to it. Yeah. But everyone ran with it. And so you just think, my God, this is terrible. So it's not as bad as all that. Some people have quit. I've spoken to people who have quit. Clarissa Chris Jansen, who's another, she does Thriving Through Menopause, spoke to her for the summit. She did leave her job. She was in corporate and left. But I'm with you. It's not an easy thing for me. It's not an easy thing for me. And I
figure out.
Yeah. I don't know. Like for me, I was last, when I was last in a workplace, I was a manager.
I was on. Mm-hmm. No, I think we're on the same page. And I think what I want, is my internet, keep getting this post saying my internet's unstable. I want what I think you want. We want like women 50 and beyond or 40 and beyond to be powerful and celebrated and healthy and, all the wonderful things, but I don't want to be treated like I'm suffering from some sort of illness. What I really want is better healthcare so that I can manage whatever the transition is. Yeah. And I want doctors to know more about it and be better informed.
Yeah.
Wisely about it. I mean, we shouldn't be suffering from hot flashes for years on end. That's just like a fucked up way to live. So we should be like dealing with it health wise and, just feel stronger. Right. So not feel crippled in the workplace basically is what I want.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're not sleep, okay. So it's the kind of work that I've done in an office and in a newsroom. But first of all, I just had a friend in Turkey who she told me that she went on, she was waking up 30 times a night. So you're not sleeping. That's really tough to get to work. But what about if you work at Taco Bell? What about if you work at UPS? What about if you work in a factory or an Amazon or wherever, all these places, you work for a cleaning service? Like you do need a menopause policy because you don't have a voice, and there's an increasing number of tribunals in the UK. And I don't know about the US because no one's really paying attention to it as much, but out of the UK, you're seeing a larger number of tribunals where people are taking their employers to court. Then the Davina McCall documentary, there's been two now, and the second one just had they just had a teacher who had left their job and wasn't able to be on camera. So they had an actress. It was really weird. And also the documentary made it seem like people were flocking out of their jobs and all these secret deals were being struck. But I have seen evidence of tribunals. There was a pet food store where the man said something. This is another harassment sort of situation, but a woman made a mistake and he said, oh, you must be going through menopause. And she took him to a tribunal and she got, yeah. So there's other aspects of it, right? Like if you're the 50-year-old woman working at the pet food store who, you know, has the mean boss and, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. If you're being discriminated against for your stage of life, that obviously is not okay. Right. So it's a complicated question.
Yeah, it's all complicated, you know, it's all, there's nothing. I feel like that's all I ever say is like,
it's all complicated. I say it's all complicated and it'll be okay. I say it'll be okay all the time. I'm always kind of like, it'll be okay. It'll be fine. Well, I love talking to you always, and I can't wait to meet you in person. You're coming to New York in October, right?
Yes, I think I am.
You're gonna have so much fun. I really can't wait. All right. Well, so everyone should sign up for Ann Marie's newsletter, Hot Flash, at hotflashinc.com and check out her summit, which is on June 21st, 23rd. She's awesome. Really good source of science and perspective on this stage of life from the other side of the world, which I think is really important. You don't just want to be listening to
middle of the world. I'm in the middle
of the world, just in the middle of the world. A perspective you probably haven't heard though on menopause from that part of the world, which is great. And yeah, just really glad to be in this space with you. Really appreciate you.
Me too. You're one of my favorite people. I just love like anytime we talk.
We're going to have so much fun when you come to New York. I can't wait.
Oh my God, I can't wait. I can't wait.
All right, Ann Marie, take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.